What's going on, everybody? Happy Thursday. Welcome to another edition of Medical Sales Live. And let me raise the roof or raise my standing desk. What's going on? Hope everybody's doing well. So we got a really interesting topic today, of course, on persuasion, right? And so we're going to be applying a very interesting principle of persuasion to medical sales. Let me see if my audio is working. Yep, audio is working, of course. And so, before we get things started, as always, you know how we start the show. Comment what city you're joining in from, and I'll highlight you. And then we're going to get right into the topic. So, let me create a banner here. We got that. Fantastic. All right. And for those who are just joining, hey, what's up, everybody? So, we're live across Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. I was going to say Instagram. Can't go live on Instagram directly, but we're going to have to work on that. So, all right. What's up, everybody? Good to see you all. Good to see you all. Okay. All right. So let's see here. Okay. And of course, if you're joining live, if you're interested, check the notes below. I got great links in there for you guys, but probably the easiest way for you to provide some value into your career and everything is if you realize, like anybody else should, that LinkedIn is the future for medical sales, among many other things for your career. Go to www.upgrademylinkedin.com. Use the code levelupmyprofile23 and you'll be able to get the course for $89. And if you haven't guessed, I'm still, I'm working from home. So of course my family's over making a lot of noise. So great way for me to get distracted. Okay. So see, that's persuasion right there. One hand signal. Now it's nice and quiet. Okay. So topic of the day, applying 3 core motives to persuasion for medical sales. Okay. So the question that often people ask is, how do you, hold on one second. Guys, can you stop dropping the bucket? I love my kid, but of all the items that you can play with, a bucket is one thing that he does not need to have access to right now. That's just the one thing. That's just my take. Okay. So that being said, so when it comes to persuasion, if we can quickly review it, right? There are 7 principles of persuasion. Okay. For those who are in my program, you know these principles, right? For those who are not, lucky for you, I'm going to walk you through them. These are not my principles of persuasion. This is the great, the infamous, the legendary Robert Cialdini, whose decades long of research put this list together. But the 7 principles of persuasion go like this, okay? And let me step back here and pull this forward so that way it's nice and clear, okay? You have reciprocity, consistency, liking, authority, scarcity, social proof, and unity. The way you can remember this is R class U. This is our class, like a university, R class U. Okay. Reciprocity means when I do something nice for you, you do something nice back. Consistency, also known as commitment bias, means that as we get older, we try and stay consistent with what we say. Liking, if I like you aesthetically, if I'm attracted to you, or if I feel like you are like me, right? Whether it's culture, religion, identity, etc., I'm more persuaded by you. Authority, again, if you have a title, you have a white coat on, something that makes you an authority figure is also persuasive. Scarcity, the more scarce something is, the more persuasive it is, right? Think about when you go to a restaurant and you say, hey, they only got one table left at 8:00. You're more persuaded to go to that restaurant. Social proof, it's very difficult for us to make decisions. So a lot of times to bypass that, we go straight to social proof to see what our peers say about something. Okay. And then lastly, unity. This is the 7th principle that Cialdini discovered a couple decades later, which is something that has to do with things that we do together we're more persuaded by. Okay. So that being said, and let me just pull up my my notes here. the question that people ask is, when it comes to this list, right, of persuasion, what how do you know what to use when, right? And luckily, there is a Dr. Niedert who came up with the three core principles. I believe he studied under Cialdini, or at least collaborates with him. And these three core principles can be focused on this. Essentially, what you need to think about is that there are three conditions that you need for a person to be highly motivated to respond favorably to any persuasion. Okay. And actually, let me pull something up here. That is grammatically incorrect. Let me fix that. Okay. So now let's let me get back here. Here we go. Okay. So there are three conditions you need. Okay. The first is that, let's start over here with the relationship. Somebody needs to have a positive relationship with the persuade. Okay. That's one condition that needs to be met. Okay. So again, we have a plus here because that's what you need to add. Okay. And we're going to go through that list. The second thing, okay, is that you need to reduce or remove uncertainty. Okay. That's the second core motive. And the third one, action. You need a positive here. The person needs to be driven to take action. If you have those three things in combination, then you get persuasion, right? And the best way to essentially engage a core motive, right, to persuade someone is to use the persuasion principles associated with that motive. Okay. So keep in mind, like, let me just break this down one more time. Okay. Because I see a lot of people, and you guys are usually on time. There's a lot of people who are late, but I see people joining the stream right now. So welcome. The main thing that you have to keep in mind is that you need relationship. You need to strengthen a relationship. You have to reduce uncertainty, and then provide an action. Those are the three core motives you need to actually persuade somebody. Okay, so let's start with the first one. Okay, building a positive relationship. Okay, the principles that have to deal with building a positive relationship are reciprocity, liking, and unity. Okay, so having a positive relationship with, let's say, the physician you're trying to persuade, right, is going to dramatically increase the chances they're going to say yes to anything. Right, more specifically, taking a meeting with you. Right, that's the bare minimum you need in medical sales, which is, will this physician actually take my meeting? If you can't get to there, like, doesn't matter what you're selling or who you are, like, you cannot persuade them. Okay. So if you think your relationship isn't positive yet, right? Well, using reciprocity, liking, and unity are really the best principles to deploy, right? And these principles are the ones that build a sense of rapport and then develop a good relationship. Okay. Let's break that down real quick. So reciprocity, because of Stark Law and Sunshine Act, you can't just give a physician, gifts, etc. Plus, to be honest with you, these people make 6, sometimes 7 figures. So whatever you're going to get them is not going to impress them. Like, it's not enough, right? In some instances, giving certain things like little, I don't know, thoughtful gifts and everything, sure, it does help. But what I think is more valuable, because it's not technically, it does not fall under the Stark Law or Sunshine Act, is engaging with a physician's content online, right? Now, is everybody's physician on social media, and do they post? The answer is no, but you can get creative, right? So assuming that they are online, you can go and engage and reshare their content. If they're not online, take the publication that they have, maybe take a photo of them from online and post about them, and send them and say, hey, I really learned a lot from you. I really like your work, etc. I made this post. I hope you don't mind, right? The liking effect, okay? This has to do with the fact that, they can relate to you and they're going to actually like you, okay? And so the way you do this is, just being personable, being well dressed, actually, and attractive, okay? If you're not attractive, that's okay. Just be well dressed, right? Do things that are going to make them like you more. Pay them compliments, right? Those kind of things. And the last thing is unity, right? This is more specific to the people within the room, right? So if you're part of the surgical team, that obviously makes it easier, but try and figure out, like, for example, if they're academia, right, they're likely going to be more active on Twitter. So is there a way for you to engage with their peer group on Twitter so that they see it, whether it's you commenting on certain threads or engaging with their content, that makes you feel more part of the tribe, right? And then they'll accept you. So that's on the relationship side. Okay. The second one, which in my opinion, this can be, so because sometimes it's hard to establish a strong relationship, if you don't know them at all, right? But this is probably the area that hurts most salespeople, which is reducing uncertainty. Okay. So when people feel uncertain about any kind of choice, they're usually just going to avoid making the decision until that uncertainty is reduced. That includes, again, hey, Dr. So and so, I'd love to have a call with you. I'd love to have a meeting. If their uncertainty is high as to what that call is going to be about, right, or who you are, they're just going to avoid it, right? And so even if they know a lot about your company, about your products and everything, if they don't know you, the chances they're going to take the meeting is going to be reduced, right? So the main reason why is that people fear, making the wrong choice, especially when it comes to their time. So if you think the person or the physician that you're trying to appeal to or persuade is uncertain about the quality of the meeting you're about to have and everything, the best principles to harness are social proof and authority. Okay. So social proof, again, do a lot of people do this? Do a lot of people prove this, right? The way you can bake in social proof, right, is in your outreach, you can mention other physicians you've met with. You can mention other physicians who have adopted the technology. That's one way to take care of social proof. In my opinion, one of the most powerful ways, because more physicians are spending time online, right? It's 2023, people. Like, this whole thing of, oh, doctors don't use social media is really outdated, right? I have the data qualitatively and quantitatively to prove that. But you can manufacture social proof online, because if they see through your content, right, which doesn't have to be medically related, that people are engaging with you, that subconsciously is social proof. The brain was not evolved to say, oh, social proof online is not as good as social proof in person. Like, it's all social proof, right? The second thing is authority. Now, a lot of medical reps have an issue with this, and they say, well, how can I position myself as authority? Look, you're an authority on the product you sell, but more importantly, you need to be, to the best of your abilities, an authority on the problem your product solves. Okay. I know many of you are going to say, well, Omar, I didn't go to medical school, etc. I know that. But if you want to be treated as a true advisor, right, like somebody who a surgeon looks to for guidance on a specific problem, you have to be an expert about it, right? And again, you can demonstrate that based on the questions you ask, based on the information you send them. The main thing is that through your email, through your communication, you need to demonstrate, like, what the hell you're talking about. You're not just some random sales rep who's going to, like, show up and throw up a presentation. Okay. And so the last one is the third is that you need to add action, right? So principles that incite action. So even if you establish, like, a positive relationship and you've reduced uncertainty, with the person you're trying to persuade, you still have to spur them into some kind of action, right? People need that extra pump. If you think about, for those who even know what I'm going to mention next, BJ Fogg, who, again, that's the, father of behavior change in our generation, right? His own behavior change model focuses on a nudge, right? All persuasion needs some kind of nudge towards action, right? And so and that's the one thing you have to remember, is that, like, you can architect and engineer behavior change, but if you do not push it towards taking any kind of action, behavior change is not going to happen. The best principles to accomplish this are consistency and scarcity. Okay. After all, think about it like this: when something is scarce, people, they have to act quickly to get to it, right? And if you've structured a request that is consistent with their previous commitments, people will act to show that they live up to their commitments. Okay. So what does that look like? Okay. On the scarcity side, right? When you reach out to a physician and you've done all the persuasion work that's needed and you're trying to move into a meeting, do not ask the question of, can you meet this week? Right? Or asking, when can you meet? Okay. That's a little bit better. When you say, can you meet this week? The answer is always going to be no. When you ask, when can you meet? Right? That's a little bit better. To really strengthen that, you have to manufacture scarcity and say, hey, Dr. So-and-so, I'd love to meet with you. I have availability on Wednesday and Thursday, and let me know what time works for you. Let me know which one of those days work best for you and time, just because, I'm doing a lot of demos, right? So now you've manufactured scarcity. You're using their imagination to understand that, like, this opportunity to meet with you is rare. Okay. Believe it or not, that does actually work. And then consistency, commitment and consistency bias has to do with, like, who the person is. Okay. And so social media does help you establish that, understand it. But more importantly, you have to be very good about going back and looking at their publications, go to their website, understand, like, what's their worldview? Are they somebody who's very big on adopting the newest and latest technologies because they want to be in the cutting edge and provide that for the patients? Are they somebody that wants to focus on tried and true things that have, a lot of clinical backing and there's no, room for error? You really have to understand who that person is. And again, once you understand that, then you can bake that in. So if it's somebody who's, really into robotics and adopting new technology, you can mention that in email and say, hey, Dr. So-and-so, as a physician who's always on the cutting edge of innovation and who's always adopting technology way ahead of the herd, right? I really believe that you'd find our product valuable for your clinical practice, right? So now you're essentially holding them accountable to the kind of person that they are, right? So those are the main core motives. Okay, again, that's Dr. Niedert who came up with this. And the most important thing to keep in mind, right, is that you have to think about persuasion, right, in every scenario. And again, just like ethics, okay, the best way to set up your let me see. We got a comment here. Let me just pull that up. It went away. Let's see. Oh, so Eric Prospero. Hey, Eric, love the quote. In order to be an authority on the product you sell, you have to be an authority on the problem you solve. Yes. Thanks, Eric. I'm gonna have to clip that. Actually, yes, that's exactly correct. In order to be an authority on the product you sell, you got to be an authority on the problem you solve, right? And again, there's nothing special about being an authority on the product you sell. Like that's like the lowest level bar, right? If you think about the best and greatest salespeople, again, the cliche thing is like, oh, you're problem solvers, you're adding value. The real thing is that you've developed such deep expertise on one specific problem, right? That somebody's going to trust you. And the way that these things work, again, think about when you look at somebody extremely successful, right? A lot of times you overinflate their authority into other areas, right? So it's very easy to assume like somebody who's great at one thing is great at another thing. And so what I would say is that if you're able to establish an authoritative position on a certain problem, right, it becomes easier to kind of expand that to other things. So for me, the first thing that I really did that with was robotics, right? And so even though I established myself well in there from a clinical standpoint, when I moved to other companies that were not robotic based, a lot of physicians were still persuaded by me because I had established myself so well and gained the respect in that area that I originally was in, that when I moved somewhere else, that authority bias kind of came along with me, if that makes sense. Great point, Eric. Right. So again, like I see a lot of people joining, so I'll make sure to kind of re-summarize some of these things. Oh man, that I was wondering where my numbers were. So my view number just like blew up right now. So hey everybody, glad you can all join. And by the way, if you have a question, let me pull up my banner. Well, first, if you're enjoying the show, hit the emoji button. But if you have a question, go ahead and ask me anything, and let me we will go over to the question section to see people from my program if they have oh man, they have any let's see. Let's see what questions we got. All right. Let's see. Questions. All right, here we go. Okay. Okay, no questions so far. Okay, that's fine. Lawrence says, "Oh, great. I keep telling me I should be streaming more to Facebook because I like it there. So I'm glad that Facebook is So build the right thing, build the thing right, and build it fast. Yeah, I guess I can get on board with that. But like, the one thing I would say is that the whole build it fast thing is like, it just depends on what you're talking about, right? It just depends. If you're in SaaS, like, yeah, this whole thing, I mean, Facebook was built on that, which is like move fast and break things. Like, sure, but we work in healthcare, so we shouldn't be moving that fast, because if we break things, like, you know, that's a patient. So, but anyways, let me come back real quick. So again, like, just to kind of re-summarize today's lesson. Okay, 7 principles of persuasion. If you don't know what these are, just look up Robert Cialdini's work. Okay, and memorize this. The mnemonic you want to use is R class U, RCLASSU. Like, this is our class. It's like a university. Okay, and again, the purpose of this is that a lot of people who learn persuasion, or at least the basics of persuasion, they have no idea which of these principles to use. So just like anything in life, and especially in sales, the quality of the questions you ask is going to reflect the quality of results you're going to get. So you have to ask yourself, what am I missing to persuade this person? Is it on the relationship side? So do I have a relationship? Do they know who I am? No, they don't. Okay, so then now on the relationship side, you focus on reciprocity, liking, and unity. Okay. Is it that there's uncertainty, right? So if I feel like, if you have to question whether the certainty is there or not, it's probably not there, in which case you need to bake in some social proof and some authority bias, right? That's really, think about it. If we look at the things that we buy from people or decisions we're making, it's one of these two things, which is there's not enough social proof, meaning like, are other people doing this, adopting it, etc. And then there's not enough authority on the person who's trying to get us to adopt, right? So you got to take care of that. And then the very last thing, right, is action. Okay, because you can have both these things. And I've had it before in the past with physicians where, and let me close my window, leaf blower, where, where essentially you can have all the persuasion baked in, but again, it's one of those classic things in sales where if you don't ask for the business, you don't get it. So on the action side, you have to move by creating some scarcity and some consistency. You have to respect your time as a salesperson. The one problem that salespeople make is assuming that, hey, you know what? I just have to, as long as I have activity, as long as I have meetings, nobody's going to judge me for that. You're right, except when those deals don't close, and now that's going to be a really awkward conversation you're going to have with management. Eric Prospero has a question. How do you avoid the middle manager blockers to doctors? What type of persuasion do you use on the manager that is protecting the surgeon schedule? And by the way, whoever's hitting those emoji buttons, keep that up. If you're enjoying this broadcast, please hit the emoji button. Okay. So great question, Eric. So here's my thing. My perspective is that you need to persuade outside of the office, right? Because when you do that, and this is where, I mean, my whole program, if you're interested, I would recommend checking out my program. My whole program, if you check the link below, there's a link where you can learn more about it, is how do you persuade digitally and at scale, right? Because if you don't, now you're left, you're having to deal directly with these middle managers, admin, staff, etc., who are going to block your meeting with the doctor, okay? And so my first recommendation is avoid it altogether. That's why you have to go online. And again, for those people who are who are like, oh, well, my doctor's not on social media. Let's just assume your doctor's not on any social media. You can at least find a way to get their email, right? If you're a really industrious and resourceful salesperson. And by the time you get their email, send them valuable content. Like, send them an article, send them, something that's entertaining, right? I've had a lecture on using memes even, right? You know why? Because every other salesperson, whether it's med device, pharma, biotech, SaaS, accounting, law, so on and so forth, what are they all doing? They're all doing the same thing, which is like, oh, just following up to see, did you get my last email? Oh, can I get a meeting with you? Oh, did you? It's all the same. You don't want to be grouped with that. You want to be over here. So even if you send a meme, right, to a physician who's older, you at least did something to differentiate yourself, right? So that's what I recommend. Now, Let's just say for whatever reason on planet Earth, you have to go through middle management. It's the same thing, right? And so when I'm in a like when I'm back in the day when I used to go to the hospital and I had to think like, okay, how do I persuade the director of surgery, for example, or the head of the operating room, right? We're usually admin, right? The first thing I think about doing, establishing a relationship. I go by, I introduce myself. Hey, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Omar Khatib. I work with this company. By the way, I know you have like all kinds of people trying to sell to you. I'm just doing my job, but I wanted to come and introduce myself. But more importantly, like whether you use our products or not, I do want to understand more about your problems because it'll help me with my other customers. All right. So establishing a relationship like that, a lot of times I would position myself and say, hey, I'm kind of new to things. Can I take you? Can I take you for a quick coffee? Can I swing by your office for 5 minutes? Just kind of get some feedback. You'd be surprised how many people are willing to do that because nobody asked for that, right? So establishing the relationship, right? Once you have some conversation going, I mean, try and relate to them. You meet them. Let's say you grab them by the let's say you're passing by, you're in the elevator, you're talking to the head of surgery, not the physician, like the director of OR or whatever, whoever's in that management position. Oh, how long have you been working here? Oh, you've been here for 10 years. Wow. Where were you before? So if you've been in here for 10 years, like you must like it a lot. What do you love about working? Think about it like you're interviewing them. And because most people don't get asked about their day, about their desires, about all these things, just establish that relationship, right? Then they're naturally going to ask you about, what do you do or who do you work for, whatever. And that's where you can take their uncertainty bias, right? You can include like some social proof, some authority, like use things like for me, I would say like, yeah, I've been actually in the industry for 10 years. I've worked in like really disruptive medical technology. So my thing is like the latest and greatest innovations. I go and work for those companies. I don't work at big companies, but I really have an eye for exciting tech. That's what brought me to this company, right? So that's an authority bias, right? A social proof, like, yeah, I've worked with like surgery directors all across the country. I've really learned a lot, right? So you learn how to bake that in, okay? And between these two things, again, if you think about it, this takes care of almost like what 70% of your persuasion between relationship and uncertainty bias. And then once you have that baked in, then you can deal with the action, right? So for example, I have like a meeting or two with somebody who's in middle management. Let's say it's a front desk person, right? Even when let's say it's back in the day in like 1992, you're just cold calling. I would find ways to actually, be helpful to the front desk. So like, again, if you're a medical sales rep, you just get slaughtered by the front desk. So a lot of times I would walk in and I would immediately let them know who I am. I would not try and hide it. Like this whole thing of I'm going to like slip in. No, don't do it. Just walk to the front desk and say, hey, I know you're very busy. I'm with this company. I only have a few minutes. I don't want to disrupt you, but like, what's a better time to come back? Right. And they're going to say like, oh, we're always busy and everything. Hey, totally understand. But like, look, I'm only doing my job here. I want to make sure that I'm also like respectful of your time and everything. Right. You'd be surprised when people see that you're trying to be genuine, right? And honest and straightforward, like they'll reciprocate that versus if you try and be sly and slick and everything, they're going to reciprocate with a lot of animosity towards you, right? Oh, Eric just bought you bought the mini course. Awesome. Look at that. See that's the kind of stuff I like. Eric, I go through that course. I'm sure my sales guy will follow up with you for our bigger course, which you have to qualify for. So it depends on where you are at. But I love people who take action. Love that. Absolutely love it. Those are the kind of people that I want on my program, by the way. And this is the biggest thing. I talk about persuasion, everything. I'm trying to make people elevate in this industry, right? And the most important thing is if you see that the world that you're looking at is not the world you like, you're struggling, you have to make a change. Now, it doesn't matter how much it's going to cost you, right? You got to make a change. Otherwise, when you get laid off, when you get fired, when you lose your job, when you can't find another job, all these things, you just have yourself to blame. Eric Prospero is a great example of somebody who I feel is going to do well, right? I don't know much about you, Eric, but the fact that you recognized a deficiency in your training, you saw a solution, and you took action on it. right? It's the same thing with these videos. 99% of the people who are watching this, and I see you guys, look, there's total across like YouTube and everything, we have 20, 30. Yeah, so there's a good amount of people watching this, okay? Most people, 99%, are going to watch this, going to go in one ear, out the other. Oh, that was really cool. Really insightful. Man, Omar's really good. That's really great. They're not going to even think about this. 1% of those people are actually going to maybe rewatch this and take some notes. And 1% of that 1% will actually implement this. The Pareto principle is like really, it is a real thing, you know? So anyways, that is it for the day. And let's see. We got Joanne from Cleveland, Ohio. Hey, Joanne, welcome to the show. All right, let's see. What other questions do you guys have? Feel free to ask anything. This is the part of the show where usually I say, we're about to end the show. And then right when I'm about to hit end broadcast, somebody flies in with a question, which is totally okay. I mean, again, this live stream is specifically for the people in my program whose questions I prioritize first. But if you're not in my program, you know, I'll take random questions. All right, looks like that is it. And then for those who are in my program, check the private group. I left a specific message in there for you guys, some extra content for you. So be sure to check that out. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Take action. Study this. Think about it. Write it down. Apply it, right? Take action. That's the most important thing. Your life gets better when you take action, when you get new information, all right? Okay, everybody, have a great evening, and I'll see you next week.